What I'm really seeing with Comet Elenin is it's not Planet X. It's not a brown dwarf. That's what I'm seeing it. I'm calling it that way. You know, and you're doing this stuff, you can be right, you can be wrong. It's a threshold issue, as I always say. And, well, that's, you know, pretty much where I feel at after watching this, watching all the information. And the thing that really sways me more than anything else when I'm looking in this genre is not so much the science, because, good Lord, folks, I mean, we just get crumbs. You know, we find them on the table, we find them on the floor. Wherever you find them, dust them off and savor them. Because that's about all you're going to get, because we are in a world of controlled media. We're just a handful of elites are pumping the propaganda to us. And, you know, watching CNN is just disgusting, because hard news now is a filler. It's not something in the middle. And then we are going to have a long conversation about some things that, if you look on the episode page for the show, you'll see that there's a download for a PDF, and we're going to be talking about that with Richard St. Laurent. There's 21 slides there he's going to go through, and I'm going to let him walk you through all of that. When you can click on that, there's two versions of it. One is a free PDF, and that's view only. You can sit there and look at it and read along with us. And so while we're getting the show started here, you might guys want to click on that. If you're a subscriber to Yowza.com, well, then you can go ahead and click on the subscriber version, and you can print and extract images from that to do your own research. Now, for those of you who are not already a Yowza.com subscriber and you've been waiting for a deal, we got that too, because tonight we're introducing Watchers 2. We talked about it in the last show, and Richard with Pinlight has got it to market now. And to help it along, because I do star in it, and I think that this is a really, really vital video for folks, we're going to have him talking about that later on in the show. To me, the big advantage of Watchers is that if you have members of your family and your friends, your network, of folks that you love and care about, and they're still sitting on the fence with all this and they don't want to bite into it, wow. The Watchers 2 DVD is just going to blow them away. It's going to open their eyes and rip off the blinders, and you just can sit there with a smug little smile on your face if you want. I mean, it's not my style, but what the heck. If that's what you want to do, plug it in. It's first-rate entertainment. It's excellent. And later on, I'm actually going to ask Richard to talk about the network interest that he has in this for an ongoing series. So with that, I'm going to bring Richard St. Laurent and Richard Shaw Pinlight on. Here we go. Hey, fellas, welcome to Yow Radio again.
Hi, everyone.
Hi there, Richard.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Hey, Rick. Okay, and just for everyone to know, Rick is going to be Richard Shaw from Pinlight down in Los Angeles, Hollywood, and then Richard St. Laurent will be Richard. And it's either that, or if we get mixed up, I go to Beavis and Butthead. But the guys don't like that. So you're going to have to keep me on the level steady here, fellas. So
we will.
Good. First off, let's talk about this article I just put up with Dr. Mansour Omrejbash, because this is a paper that has been used extensively by folks who have been advocating the position that Comet Elenin is a brown dwarf coming into the system. And he's written some very provocative responses, and my response to it was really trying to sort through it. I kind of see Omrejbash kind of like a Shockley character. That's the fellow that got a Nobel Peace Prize in 1956 for the invention of the transistor, and then went out and started with his, with his racial and eugenics rants that just really killed it for him and threw him in the dustbin of history. But we still have transistors, and this show wouldn't work without a Shockley transistor. I find the same kind of thing with Omrejbash's paper, or actually his interview. The paper itself is very much straight science. And he does, from my point of view, he makes a prima facie case. But let me throw this to Richard St. Laurent. What's your take on the Omrejbash paper?
What I found very interesting from that interview is the fact you have discussed about a resonator or a resonating system. And
Richard, speak up a little bit more if you can. Give me some more volume there, bud.
Okay. Is it better that way? Or
that's a little better, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so what I found very interesting from that article is the fact the doctor has spoken about resonator and a resonating system. And this is quite interesting because when you have an electrical source of energy somewhere, and when you add to it a coil, what you have is a tank circuit. This is called an electricity resonator circuit too. So, and what it does, as you put it, the circuit on an electric current, when you pass an electric current across it, it will start to resonate at a certain frequency, which is called the natural frequency or the resonance. So this is very interesting because if you have something, an object that approaches the Earth, and this object, let's say it is very electrically energized, so but the frequency that things will resonate is very, very important. And if it is in the low frequency, it will affect us higher because the Earth is working pretty close to the Schumann frequency, which is close to 7.8 hertz. This is a very low frequency. So, I found these things, and you discussed with him during the interview, very, very interesting.
So, with the Schumann resonance, are you saying his paper stands if there's a Schumann resonance, but what if it doesn't?
Well, when I read the article, I mean, he has not mentioned about the Schumann frequency, or he has just spoken about resonator, and because he seemed to be very amazed about the fact when these things align with the planets or the Earth, it always has a very tremendous result. You know, we have seen it in Japan on March 11. We have seen it in February 27 in 2010 in Chile. But what about in the past? A lot of comets has come and passed in our solar system without creating, you know, huge tremor like this. I really believe this is caused because the sun is highly active, electrically speaking, and if you couple it with another star that is approaching our solar system, so it makes any object that will pass in our solar system very, very dangerous now. Even a small object can be dangerous depending on where it passes, where it goes, and if it aligns with Earth. In that case, we have an object that is very close to the ecliptic, and so it is aligning with several planets before the next alignment we will have on September. So it can, I suppose it can gain a lot of energy during it travels to us. During you know, it passes to us. So
well, yeah. Let me ask you this. I think as I look at it all, I mean, I remember years ago, I read the Kachina Blue Star prophecy of the Hopi. Mm-hmm. And I've always had a deep respect for the Hopi people. I grew up around the Hopi people in Arizona. And I used to love to go out and hunt and fish a lot. And, you know, you go out and sometimes you'd be passing through the reservation and stop off somewhere for some fried bread, and it's like, oh man, that's the best stuff you ever put in your whole mouth. I mean, you know, you can just feel your arteries hardening and your guts expanding as you eat that stuff. But, well, it's addicting. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. And but the Hopi to me have always been a real salt of the earth people, and you know, their heritage goes back 500 years BC, and when I first came across the Blue Star prophecy, and I think it was probably around 2002, 2003, that was when we started publishing articles on Planet X on Yowza.com, and I remember looking at that and I'm going, I can't connect the dots here, you know. This isn't, you know, where's this blue star? And I mean, oh my gosh, over the years, I saw so many theories about, oh, there it is, that's the blue star. Well, no, strike that. Oh, there it is, that's a blue star. No. And, you know, it goes on and on and on. But, you know, I just take mysteries like that and I stick them in a jar, put them on the shelf, and eventually the universe will fax me a label. And I think Comet Elenin really did that for me, because when I look at the whole story on Comet Elenin, and what really drove me on this more than anything else is I am a student of disinformation now. Not that I enjoy it, not that I ever got up one morning and said, hey, I really want to do this, you know. No. If it was my choice, I would just do science and look at things and have a good, straightforward conversation, but it doesn't work that way. And so the disinformation really now is an integral part of the research, because watching the ebb and flow of it, and as I point out in this article or this interview, is that disinformation has a chatter factor. And it's really a whole lot like, well, what we hear when Big Sis comes on and says, we're going to level tutti frutti because of the chatters ratcheting up. And, you know, to them, what exactly they're saying, they don't know. What they do see is they see a change in the intensity, the frequency, and the nature of the dialogue. And those changes tend to herald an imminent event or something afoot that's in planning. Either way, they will take action on it. Now, with Comet Elenin, that was the same thing I've been seeing in this, and I've been following it pretty close since the comet was discovered December of last year, and really have been sitting back and looking at it. I think I've been, like several of the other researchers I talked to, you know, right from the get-go, we were looking at this whole thing and feeling like it was a big picture puzzle missing the corners, you know. That's a hard puzzle to put together. And as things ratcheted up with the disinformation, when you have a normal conversation, and it's something that's purely organic, someone comes out with something and it catches fire and it goes, you tend to see an escalation that goes like stair-stepping. Then it might plateau a little bit, and then as the early adopters solidify, and then if it is a topic that gains critical mass, it takes off. And it builds up like a big bell curve, and then eventually just kind of peters out and drops off. And so it has a very normal pattern that way. With Elenin, what I saw was a synthetic pattern that was not consistent with an organic web dialogue. This was more where it came in and all of a sudden there's these explosive peaks. Bam, 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 bam. And so I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, somebody's driving this conversation and they know how to do that. So this is not organic. And that was really what was bothering me, but I couldn't put a thumb on it. Well, you know, for those of you out there who might remember back to 2003, and there was the big Zeta Talk, Mark Hazelwood, blindsided non-event with Planet X. And I mean, it got everybody racing out there, really worried. I mean, Hazelwood just whipped up a panic. And but when I look at that whole pattern of what happened, it was still an organic pattern. Nobody was jumping in. It was just one of those things that let it run its own course. It was going to do the job for someone else. And sure enough, I mean, it collapsed, and there was no interest in Planet X for several months. And it dragged along until 2004, in December of that year, when Sumatra superquake and tsunami took 150,000 lives. And that was really the turning point for a resuming interest in this topic. So as I'm looking at this, it's just taking me back to 2003 all the time. And I'm just going back and I'm seeing manipulation, but I'm seeing generation of a non-event. To me, it makes sense from the disinformationalists who, what their job to do is really to exhaust people's attention in a legitimate topic. That's their job, get you to move off target, so to speak. Yeah. And so they run you down rabbit holes, or worse yet, they throw you stuff that on one hand is really good, and on the other hand, it's flawed and deeply so. So you can never get a clear beat on anything, and that in turn will exhaust you as well. I see these techniques. It's much more sophisticated than the things I've been seeing in the past, so that took more time to observe, but you can definitely see the handprint that's coming on it. That's what I'm seeing here, is that people are getting set up with this notion that Comet Elenin is Planet X, and I don't believe it is, because it's outside the orbit of Mars. I mean, if you have a planet-sized object beyond the orbit of Mars, especially something several times the size of Jupiter, for example, or the size of Jupiter, I mean, we should see it. You know, we should all be able to stand out in the yard and go, uh-oh, Do you see that? Yeah, I see that. Uh-oh. We're not doing that. What we have is a relatively young comet, but it's coming through. Now, Richard, the point that you made is the 1-2 punch, and I think that goes to the Hopi prophecy. And the Hopi prophecy is pretty simple. You have the blue star Kachina, and then you have the red star Kachina. Blue star comes, it's going to bring some trouble. It's going to bring some grief.
Absolutely.
But it's really a harbinger. It's telling us, what the Hopi are saying is this is the time to go back the old ways, all right? Cut up your credit cards and live off the land again. And if you do that, you get through it. Because when the red star Kachina arrives, that's it. The guacamole hits the fan. It's misery beyond belief.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm seeing here, is this kind of a thing. So with that, I'm going to ask, Rick, what's your take on it?
I was just going to say, I think I'm in agreement with you, Marshall. I think that it's another one of the, as the prophetic text would call it, the signs in the heavens, in the skies and in the heavens. And what maybe most people don't realize is that there's actually thousands of known comets, and only a few that are as unusual as Elenin is. There's a comet right now that's orbiting between Jupiter and Saturn. And then back in the 90s, we watched Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 plow into the planet Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things are fascinating, but you know, we know why it went into Jupiter, because of Jupiter's mass sucked it right in there. So I really feel that Elenin is more or less a, like you've been saying, Marshall, a harbinger of things to come. And as far as as it disturbing the Earth, I suppose the theory is that where we're talking about the theory of resonance here, that somehow it's interacting with the Earth's mantle, which is the idea that the Doctor has brought in, and also Richard. That I could use some enlightening myself.
Go for it, Richard.
I have to add a point here. When you have a very high very high energy, electric energy in a comet, it will light in blue and green color. So if it's green, blue, it's very, very, very highly electrical. So this is a point. So
Richard, is that plasma that we're looking at? Is that what really?
Yeah, always plasma. When you have a electric field and you have some matter, the electricity will start to ionize that matter, and we call that plasma. You can have different kind of plasma. You have a neon tube, you know, for the lightning. So you have neon gas inside the tube. So when you put the switch on, you have an electrical current that passes through the tube. At some point, the gas just get ionized by that, and you get light. But you get light in a certain frequency because of the type of material you have ionized. We will talk about that a little bit later about the brown dwarf, and the brown dwarf has atmospheres, and you can have some different type of gas. So these gas will give the color at the end of the story of the class of brown dwarf we are dealing with. So this is the point, a very interesting point, because the blue Kachina, we're talking about some things, if it's a comet that is highly energized. So this is my point.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, fellas, I've got a couple of interesting questions here, and Susan, PX 2012, is in the board, and she's helping us with staying on top of questions that are flowing with it. Susan, a big thank you, darling. You are a sweetheart. And here's what she's passed on to us from Bill XAM. All right. And, God, that sounds like a Los Angeles radio show, doesn't it, Rick? But, I don't know. What's it with me and screen names? God, I don't know. Here he goes. Where I am, the sun is supposed to be 69 degrees above the horizon at 12 noon, June 1. My reading today was 73 degrees above the horizon at 12 noon, June 1. So is there any relationship, one-to-one, so to speak, between Elenin and what he's experiencing? And also he has another one that's coming up from DR Kate, is it dense enough to pull us into its orbit? So those are two questions from the virtual chat room. And open dibs, which you guys wants to grab one.
Well,
Go
about the
ahead.
sun, I could comment on that. In Watchers 2, we mentioned that in Greenland, up in the Arctic Circle areas where it's dark for 30 days, the sun came up 2 days earlier. It was documented on the web, and it's in Watchers 2. After we discovered that, we thought that was pretty amazing. And then this happened right after we noticed some changes in the moon. So there has been talk that because of the Japan earthquake that the Earth's axis has shifted a couple degrees. And I think I don't know how you would measure that. We know that the magnetic poles have shifted. And I've heard all sorts of different opinions on that, but I've heard a figure as large as 10 degrees as far as it being shifted. But we're talking about two different things. The magnetic pole shift has indeed occurred and is occurring. And then we believe the Earth's actual axis has shifted some. How we would know exactly how much, we would have to have the ability to track stars and have equipment in order to do that, and none of us have that. So I think that could very well be the case if the Earth has shifted on its axis.
Wow. What do you think about that, Richard?
Okay, there's some things.
I mean, let's keep in mind up there, they were saying with the sun setting that it was glacial melt, as in what, like, that's a lot of glacial melt to move the sun. But,
yeah, it's totally ridiculous.
But, I mean, I tell you something, excuse me, before you go on, Richard.
Yep.
Some of the biggest bull farts I see come from mainstream science. It's like, they're stupid. They'll buy it. You know, we know otherwise. It's like, if we did
trying
that
to peg
stuff,
it on global warming.
yeah. Good Lord, man. It's like hand in the cookie jar. No, not mine. Yeah, but anyway, I digress. Richard?
Yes, it's very interesting, this question about the sun, because I produced a series of video on YouTube. Unfortunately, it is still in French now, but I put an information about a kind of astronomical horloge, or and it was built in a cave. And what they have done, I just try to remember what it was. Not the Hopi, but I don't remember what native has done that. I'm going to find it and come back with the name later. But what they have done, it's a kind of spiral engraved in the rock. And above the cave, you have a crack. So at a very specific times, you have the sunbeam that comes and just hit the spiral, okay, inside the cave. But what is very interesting about that is the fact that on every solstice and equinox, you can see the actual beam pass just in the middle of the spiral, not beside, but just in the middle, directly in the middle of the spiral. And this is very amazing because I look at the date and at the time, not the date, but the time. I would say that it passed in the middle perfectly at 11:11. So this is very amazing because if you look at the Mayan clock and the NASA clock, you will see that not the next solstice, but the solstice we will have in 2012 will occur at 11:11 universal time. And both Mayans and NASA are in accordance with that time. So we see that. But since last year, in 2010, this horloge or this thing doesn't align anymore. And according to the Indian that has built this cave, when this happens, it is because the Earth will get a very big trouble. This is doomsday ahead of us when this happens. I'm going to send you the link about that, Marshall and even Richard. I just forgotten to send it the information, but this is very, very interesting. And it is a smoking gun that the sun is not at the place it should be. So to answer, I hope that this can be interesting for the answer of I don't remember the name of the person that has asked this question, but I think this is it is a proof that something is going wrong with the sun, the moon, and let's say the stars, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's,
well, we've got
there's just a lot of strange stuff. And, you know, and there is that other question that we have is, you know, this came in from Susan, and she's going, is it, and I would presume that this is in reference to Planet X, is it dense enough to pull us into its orbit?
Is the comet dense enough?
No, I don't see exactly what, I would say the comet or brown dwarf or anything, in other words. It's one thing for our orbit to be perturbed, but the other thing is, would we be shifted out of our present orbit? I think that probably is the question that would be more to the point here.
She's talking about the Earth and the other planet of our solar system. Am I right, or?
Yeah, I think that's what she's really talking about is, you know, what's happening here. So the question, let's just frame the question in a general sense. Is this something where we have a situation that this incoming object could pull the Earth, because we're talking about a pole shift, all right? So, I mean, that definitely is, you know, when you're talking about a pole shift, and it's really, I mean, from what we're seeing just in the virtual room and in general in the feedback I'm getting, people are really concerned, you know, magnetic north, things are changing. Richard, in your Watchers 2, you have during the equinox that, you know, the moon was shifted as well. So,
right.
You know, that, I guess, if we just expand this to a very broad general discussion of this incoming object, you know, and answer the question, is it something that would be powerful enough to not only create a pole shift, but to go beyond that and to actually nudge Earth out of what is a stable orbit? And I'll drop that on your lap, Richard.
Okay, first of all, there's several aspects to the question. You have talked about pole shift. There's two types of pole shift. We have a magnetic pole shift and you have the physical pole shift. I really think that the physical pole shift, the way it works, to me, it's we have presently, we witness a magma rising all around the Earth. This is why we have, you know, volcanic activity on the increase. And at some point, the crust can start to move around the globe. Not the Earth completely, but just the crust. And can make some very impressive distance. So we call that the physical pole shift. I think this will happen when Planet X will be close to us. Now, about the magnetic pole shift, as the core of the Earth is melting more and more, it is the same principle as I have spoken last week. If you take a magnet, and if you want to remove the magnetism it has inside of it, you have to heat it very much at very high temperature, and so it will last is magnetism inside of it. To if you want to put magnetism again inside of it, you heat it, you put a very huge electromagnetic field across it, and you let him, you know, to cool down, so it will gain again its magnetism. So I think that the Earth is very weak now. We can see that moving and weakening, and as it moves that way, I can tell yes or no. I'm not sure of that, but I think based on the Sumerian text and based on the prophecies, that we will have big time with the magnetic field, and I think it will start when Elenin will be close to us. We will have big problem. So to answer the question about that, I really do think that yes, we will have big and huge problem with the Earth magnetic shield, and that is why they start to use HARP. HARP, they can trigger earthquake for sure, but what they try to do, they try to use it as a to replace in a artificial way the Earth magnetic field as it is weakening, because they are not afraid of what will happen to us. Don't believe, but believe me, I mean, they don't care about us. But what they care is the Earth atmosphere to be ionized in such a way that an electric current could suck a part of it. And I do think it has happened on Mars in past in ancient times. It's been proven that Mars has in the past an atmosphere. So and we can also see scars, big, huge scars on the surface of Mars that looks like an electric arc that has, passed across Earth's surface. So this is my point.
Okay. All right. Now, before we move on, I want to tell the listeners out there that if you notice, we've got 3 links up towards the top of the show description. First one is a free 21-page LNN PDF view only. Password will be announced. And so for those of you who do not have a Yowza subscription, you can download that. And the password is YOWUSA.com. Again, you can download the free one. Password to open that file is YOWUSA.com. So go ahead and do that now, because we're going to be getting into that with Richard later on in the show. And for you Yowza subscribers who have access to our premium content, we have a version there, and it's view, but you can also print it and extract all of the 21 slides for your own personal research. Now, for those of you who are not yet Yowza subscribers, we're doing a special promotion, and I'm announcing it with this show, and it's just strictly limited to on-hand quantities, and we don't have a lot of them. But if you click on Become a Yowza Subscriber, that will take you to the Yowza Subscriber page, and there you can see we have a YowRadio.com special. You save over 40%, and because what I really want to do is help get the word out with the watchers too, because again, I'm always looking for something to help people explain this to someone else, and the first thing you got to do is you got to get people's attention. You got to focus on the stuff. They're already seeing it out in the news. The problem is you can't connect the dots, because hard news today is filler for the fluff. The fluff is what we get, all right? Unless you're watching 30 minutes with NBC or whatever, that tends to be more on the hard news style. But if you're watching Cable News Network or MSNBC or Fox, doesn't matter. They're just hard news is the filler. The rest of it is entertainment. And so you really can't get the picture when you're watching that. But with this special, you're going to get Watchers 2 DVD and the book that we're getting ready to come out and promote. It's an anthology, Alien Security. And it's got the story Alien Security by Maurice Osborne. And it also comes with a data DVD. It's got a lot. It's got 4 hours of video by Maurice Osborne, 3 different shows. They used to be up on Google Video. Google Video just kicked the can. And so getting those out there is really difficult now. You'll have them on this copyable disc. You'll also have 3 cut-to-the-chase shows that we have with Maurice Osborne on crop circles, CTs, and abductions, and I think that's really interesting stuff, plus 3 PDF excerpts from the book that you can actually share with your friends, get the thing going. And in the anthology, I have a very large chapter called Doing the Tell, and this is really talking about things you can do to organize with others in dealing with disinformation, recognizing it, and also challenging it. Disinformation is something that I call them the cockroaches. And the reason why I do that is, first off, we really need to respect cockroaches as a species. They've been around a long time. They're mighty durable. And after a nuclear war, it's going to be them and, insurance clerks in deep underground vaults that are going to inherit the world. But the thing is, you cast a little light on them, they head for the baseboards. And that's really all you have to do is there's ways to challenge them and to back them off. They're very vulnerable as long as they can keep their bluff and bluster going. And picking a pin in it, sticking a pin in it is really easy, folks. It is so easy to defeat them. That is, if you know where you're looking and you know how to hit them. And in Alien Security, you're going to get that information. Now, also in this bundle, you get a lifetime subscription to Yowza. Lifetime being as long as there's an internet, the site's going to be there. And then afterwards, I don't know who does. But lifetime means that's it. You get your log on and you just go. Now, all of that taken together, purchased separately, is going to cost you $48.90 for this. And remember, this is limited quantities. We're only allocating so many of these to this special. You can get it all for $29. That's the Watchers 2, Alien Security, the DVD, and a Yowza subscription. Folks, I've never given away so much before, but I want to do it now because, to me, these books are really, really good eye-openers to help people become aware so that when you're out there talking to your friends and family and they're telling you, oh, you're a nutter, you know, who's the nutter? They're not the ones that's sitting there connecting the dots and watching what's happening on TV these days, even if it is in between the entertainment. But you get them to read Alien Security or you get them to watch the DVD, then they're going to be challenged with things that they're already seeing in the world around them, and it will force them to think. And if you can get them to do that without you walking up and snatching onto the blinders and ripping them off, and then they're going to hate your guts for that. Trust me, they're going to hate your guts for that. Let someone else do it. Let Richard Shaw and Watchers 2, or Maurice Osborne and Alien Security. Let someone else do the dirty work, shall we say, of awareness. Because awareness is like getting slapped in the face with a salmon. You know, all you do is sit there and you're kind of half numb and spitting scales and going, what the heck happened? And I'm sorry, folks. That's just the way it is. Everybody goes through it. I went through it. If you haven't already gone through that, you're about to go through it. You know, it's just the way it is. And so with that, let me get on back here to Richard, and let's pick up and see what's in the, oh, by the way, we have a, can we get the subscription use PayPal? Not right now, although if you guys want, I don't have a PayPal link, you could just send $29 to PayPal@yowbooks.com and just put in there that you want the show special, and I'll be glad to handle it for you there. Otherwise, it's going through Google Checkout right now. And there we go. And again, the level of subscription is a lifetime. It's full. It's total access, Bill XAM. You get it all. And you get it all for as long as it's there to be got. So with that, let's get back to Rick, all right? Because I think what I'd like to do, Rick, is talk about your production and what folks are going to see in Watcher 2, besides me.
I'd be happy to, Marshall. L.A. Marzulli and I had done another DVD called The Watchers, and it was basically about UFOs and the rise in sightings around the world and what the heck's going on. And we had some really great people, experts on that program, and kind of brought out some points that a lot of people weren't aware of. We also had Dr. Roger Lear talking about implants and their studies of examining them under electron microscope and finding nanotubes inside. So Lynn and I talked about Watchers 2 before we started doing it, and felt that we were studying all of these ancient texts, the Old Testament, the Torah codes, the Book of Enoch, the Colburn Bible, the Hopi Indians. All of these things seem to be talking about the same stuff that's going on, including the one person that wrote in with a question about the sun. I have an interesting verse in the book of Isaiah, which is an old prophetic text out of the Old Testament, written a couple thousand, 2,500 years ago. It says, in Isaiah chapter 24, it says, the earth reels to and fro like a drunkard, and it totters like a shack, for its transgression is heavy upon it. And we're seeing the earth starting to do that, and I think it's just, we're only seeing the beginning of what it's really going to do. So what we thought, well, do ancient texts tell us about what's happening today? Because we're seeing the world is in turmoil. We've got all of these Arab states fighting each other and basically coming apart at the seams. We see the moon. We see birds dropping out of the air dead. We see fish dying by the millions all over the world. And there's all kinds
Yeah,
of
I mean, that's
crazy
really, I'm
explanations.
still weird for you down there in Los Angeles. You had those 2 fish kills on Redondo Beach, right?
We did, millions of fish.
Yeah.
I mean, the Redondo Beach
Millions
kill
of
was
fish.
massive. I mean, it was a foot thick in some places, they said. And then we've got sinkholes appearing all over the world. And then, you know, I've been working on this other film for a long time that this is going to require major funding to do. So it's a pretty demanding project, but it's on the Torah codes. And I had already been working with one of the world experts on that and asked him to do a code on the moon for Watchers 2, which he did. This was Rabbi Matityahu Glazerson, who is an expert in ancient Hebrew. He can put the code in correctly with the correct phrasing. And it came out with a whole sentence in the Torah code saying, will be observed a change in the moon, and gave the year of 5771, which is 2011. It's the Hebrew calendar year for this year. And indeed, we saw many changes in the moon this year. Right after the winter solstice on December 21st, 2010, we saw a rotation in the moon, and a lot of people saw it and filmed it. I was intrigued with the idea, so we put that in Watchers 2, and we have Glazerson's Torah code table in there that kind of proves that, yes, it was predicted. There was a UFO sighting over the Temple Mount, and we analyzed that. Is it real or was it faked? And so we really kind of felt, Lynn and I, that Lynn is a really great researcher and a brilliant person as far as having studied all of this. And we really thought this would be an interesting topic for the show. So hence, Watchers 2 was kind of birthed back at the beginning of the year. And the biggest problem we had in creating this documentary was that world events were happening faster than we could cover them. So we rushed this thing out the door just as Osama bin Laden was assassinated. That was the last thing that happened as this thing went to press. So it was just a blitz trip all the way around with it, as you know, Marshall.
Wow. Well, and also we're starting to get some interference and breakup on your line there, Rick.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is when we get up to the top of the hour, I kind of take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to play Woody Guthrie, "This Land Is Your Land." And after that, we are going to come back and we're going to dive real heavy into, well, the whole point of the show, which is the woman and the dragon, right, Richard?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
And with your 21, and for those of you out there, we've got a 21-page PDF, and for you listening in, and we're going to keep this up as along with the show. So where you see the link, free 21-page Elenin PDF, view only. Password will be announced. Well, I've already announced it, and I'll announce it again. That password is Yowza.com, YOWUSA.com. And when we come back from Woody, we're going to go through that step by step. It's going to be Richard's showtime. So you ready for that, Richard?
Oh, yes. I will try.
Oh. You know what the Chinese say. Be careful what you wish for. All right. Well, we're going to go to Woody right now for a couple of minutes. So for those of you out there that need to get up and take a quick one, whatever quick it is, and here we are, back to take care of that dead air. Okay. And Rick, we've got you on the new line. How's this sounding?
Great. Does it sound better?
Great. Okay. All right. And everyone's here. Great. Yep. Well, with this, now I'm going to make one more announcement on the PDF, and then I'm going to step back from the mic, and the show is going to go to Richard because, well, the show is titled after what Richard's got going here, and there's this, for folks out there, free 21-page Elenin PDF, view only. For subscribers, there's a link as well, and that's you can extract and print on that one. And for the free 21-page, the access code to open it is Yowza.com, YOWUSA.com. And also, we're going to have Rick talk to us a little later on about this special that we're running on the Watchers 2 with Alien Security and a lifetime Yowza subscription. And with that, I'm handing it over to you, Richard. You control the airwaves.
Okay. So I will ask to everyone to read not read, but to get on page 1 And this is the verse we have in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verses 1 to 4. This is a King James Version. So the verse goes like this, okay? And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. So when you take a look at the woman clothed with the sun, we have two significations. And here I'm going just to give you a fact and no religion about what I'm going to tell you. The woman has two signification. One is astronomical signification, and the other one is a earthly signification. The woman means Virgo, as the part of the sky we have in space, and to the earth, it means Israel. We continue. And the moon under her feet. This is what we can see using an astronomical software. It's going to happen on September 29. 30. Yes, okay, September 30. We can actually see the sun in the sky in Virgo with the sun, not the sun, but the moon that move to her feet.
Richard, and that's this year?
Yes, this year, yeah. I'm sorry, yes.
This year.
September 2011, this year, yeah. And I continue. And upon her head, a crown of 12 stars. This is very interesting here. I think there is a mounting evidence about the fact Elenin could very be this sign, just upon the head of the woman. We will continue and we will see this later. What are the evidence? So I'm thinking this is going to be the sign. And she's being with a child cried, traveling in birth and pain to be delivered. Here we're talking about Venus for the astronomical sign and Jesus as the earthly sign, because Jesus came from Israel. Israel, the woman, and Jesus, the child. But if we look at the astronomical aspect of it, Venus has always been called the morning star, so this is the same name we give to Jesus, so this is a kind of connection we can see here. We continue. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. So what we can see here is Nibiru has supposedly 7 planets orbiting around her, and the planets must have 10 moons, and maybe some debris around that will make the crowns. But for sure, it has a significance. Astronomically speaking, we have something here. We can see something here. And if I continue, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. So what I can tell here is this thing is going to be very huge, and not only that, but very bright. So we can expect a big part of the sky. We will not be able to see the stars on the background anymore. So this is something very interesting here. And we have some text in the Colburn Bible that lead us to think it's going to be the case. And if I continue, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. I have made a lot of study about the planet's orbit, and we have found something, and it has been validated with several symbolism and different ways. So what we have discovered, we expect Planet X to be situated in the next September this year, just in the transit in between Libra and Virgo. So it will be just before or in front of Virgo, if you will. So this is very interesting. So now I would like the people to go on page 21 of 21. So we can continue. What I would like to go through now is we have discussed last week about the fact is Elenin is a brown dwarf or not a brown dwarf. I'm going to give you some hints, people, so you can make your own research. Just to give you some avenue you can go through, and maybe some you have not seen on the internet yet. So I think this is a pretty interesting stuff I do found. So
Richard, what's that slide number?
Yeah, the slide number, page 21st. 21.
Okay.
So got it? Okay, so the title is Infrared Spectroscopy of Brown Dwarfs, the Onset of CH4, which means methane, gas, absorption in L dwarfs, and the LT transition. Okay. So now go on page 20. Okay, I have put two examples of brown dwarf, and I have put the class L and the class T. The class L is represented by the upper picture. And you can clearly see the color of the L class brown dwarf. It is red. And as we know the prophecies, the Hopi, they claim it's going to be the red Kachina at the end, the Bible, the red dragon. And if we go in the Colburn, okay, page 19, manuscript 3, this is when ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars in the heavens. Their ways change. Here it make me think about the book of Enoch, the verse I gave you last week. There is movement.
We have time, Marshall. I'd like to read that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard. And by the way, I'm getting from the virtual room. You're kind of coming in and out a little bit. Richard, so remember to keep that microphone right up to your mouth, kind of like, trust in the voice. That kind of close, you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm trying to do my best.
Good.
It sounds good on my end, but I'd like to read this if this is a good time to do it.
Run with it. Go for it, Richard. Jump in.
Last week, Richard came up with this reference, so I immediately looked it up, and I sent it out to a few friends of mine because I was so blown away with it. But this is from Book 3 of Enoch, Chapter 80. And Enoch is, just for a bit of background on that, it's what is referred to as an apocryphal text, which means it's not like considered scripture, except some people consider it scripture. It was found along with the rest of the ancient text that was discovered during the Dead Sea Scrolls, which kind of puts it in a pretty good company with the book of Isaiah and the Torah and everything else. So I really think that Enoch was withheld intentionally from us until now, when we really need it.
Mm-hmm.
But in chapter 80 it says, and in the days of the sinners the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields, and all things on the earth shall alter, and shall not appear in their time. And the rain shall be kept back, and the heavens shall withdraw. And in those times the fruits of the earth shall be backward, and shall not grow in their time. And the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. And the moon shall alter her order, and not appear at her time.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days the sun shall be seen, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west, and shall shine more brightly than accords with the order of light. In other words, it's going to really get bright at some point.
Mm-hmm.
This is also, there's many prophecies that we've discovered that talk about the sun is going to get really bright in the near future here. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on earth shall err concerning them. In other words, people are going to just kind of ignore what's happening, just exactly the way they are today. Yeah. And they shall be altered from all their ways, and yea, they shall err and take them to be gods. And evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them, so as to destroy all. It's pretty heavy duty.
Oh, yeah.
And we tie that into another ancient text, which is the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament, read about 2,500 years ago. A very similar text appeared. It says, "See, the day of the Lord is coming, a cruel day with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land desolate and destroy the sinners within it." It's interesting to me that Isaiah 13 and Enoch chapter 80 refer to destroying the sinners on the earth. Verse 10 says, "The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their light. The rising sun will be darkened. The moon will not give its light. I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their sins. I will put an end to the arrogance of the haughty and will humble the pride of the ruthless. I will make man scarcer than pure gold, more rare than the gold of Ophir. Therefore I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will shake from its place at the wrath of the Lord Almighty in the day of his burning anger." Now, one of the guys that we had that did some research for us in Watchers 2 is a scientist by the name of Stan Deyo. And Stan's a really bright guy. You may have heard him on George Norrie's show, Coast to Coast AM. He's on there quite often. He kind of believes that all of these things that are happening to the earth are part of a cycle that was put in motion millions of years ago, and the powers that be that wrote these scriptures, the inspiration of that went into this is basically all of these things are timed to occur together. The geopolitical events and the events in the heavens and on the earth is all going to culminate in one big boom. It's very, very complex. I mean, we've got the Middle East coming apart. We've got wars breaking out all over the place. We've got earthquakes. We have the threat of famines all over the world because since the earth is being, all of its seasons are changing, and we have flooding and droughts at the same time, our crops are not harvestable. And this could result in food shortages and incredible prices for food. And this has already started to happen. All of these things are definitely very prophetic, but it's as if, okay, if you want to use the word God knew in advance that this would happen and is warning us in this way, sometimes I think that these passages are worded for people 2,000 years ago is best in the most terrifying sense that they could get the point across. But now, as we're in a different age here and we can look at these things scientifically and also from a scriptural respect of what was written and deduce our own understanding that it's a warning, I feel, to the generation we're in because these things have already started to happen. So that's just my opinion on the subject.
Well, there it is. Well, I think that
you're right.
This brings us back to the PDF. That's a good segue, and it really establishes some background. And right now, I'm still on page 20 of the PDF. Do we need to move on to the next page, Richard?
Yes, this is. We are still on page 19. So, like Richard Shaw said, their ways change. There is movement and restlessness. They are no longer constant, and a great light appears redly in the sky. So we are talking here of a kind of reddish color. Okay? So come back to page 20.
So this is out of Manuscripts 3.3 Colburn, okay?
Yeah.
And, folks, I mean, the Colburn just has the ancient accounts of what happens. As someone on the board was talking about the ancients. And, well, if you want to know what they went through, you read the Colburn Bible.
I love the verse that's on your website, Marshall. It says in the Colburn, I don't know how this, is it Man 3, chapter 3, verse 7? It says, "It was in the days of heavenly wrath which have gone, and thus it will be in the days of doom when it comes again. The times of its coming and going are known unto the wise. These are the signs and times which shall precede the destroyer's return." Yeah. That's from the Colburn Bible.
Yeah. So I mean, the ancients are talking to us, guys. I mean, that was the thing that was so amazing for me, was that, when we started looking for this, we started finding it all over the place. And, in the Old Testament, the Colburn Bible, Book of Enoch, my gosh, there's a bunch of stuff. So, but let's stay on focus here, because I want to get through this whole slide presentation that you've done, Richard. So let's push on. Let's soldier on. Right now, we just finished on slide 19, Man 3.3, when ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars in the heavens. Their ways change. There is movement and restlessness. They are no longer constant, and a great light appears readily in the sky. Now, before we do that, one of the folks mentioned a post in the room about something we actually already have on our Planet X Town Hall. The blue Kachina already came, and there are a lot of folks that believe that Comet Holmes in 2007, which exploded and turned blue, was the blue Kachina. But, I mean, I remember Holmes, and it was part of a pattern where we see comets when they cross the ecliptic. It's like they hit some sort of energized brick wall, and they shatter, and they blow up. We saw it with a couple of different comets. And the other thing we also saw was that NASA was incredibly sluggish in getting anything out, and when they did get it, it was kind of thin. Richard, what's your thought?
But
could Comet Holmes have been the blue Kachina?
I don't think so, because if we have passed across the Sumerian text last week, and if you remember well, there was a verse. It goes like this, or close to. There will be an uproar twice, okay, when it passes. So it makes me think about the next two alignments we will have with Elenin in September and November this year. This is very close. Two alignments back to back. I think it's 1.5 months, and in between both. So it's pretty close. And if you look in the Bible, you have a sign. And the sign, as I can see, will happen this year. The woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet. Yes, that's right, under her feet. And these things will happen, has not happened in the past, but will happen this year in September. So when you have another great sign in heaven, a red dragon. This is after that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that Elenin will cause a big surprise to us. But I'm going to go through my document, and you will see some stuff maybe that will surprise you. Okay.
I love surprises.
Yeah.
As long as they're not from
and by
the
the way,
government.
is my voice okay now? Because I was holding my phone with my shoulders to hold my document. Now it's okay? The sound, my voice?
Okay, it's sounding better. Yeah, you're sounding stronger. And out there, Susan, in the chat room, let me know if we need to get him doing Darth Vader again. Okay? So we are right now in the PDF. We're on page 19. Where are we going next?
And we come back on page 20 just for a few seconds. We have seen the red picture according to the Class L brown dwarf. And if you read
Class L to the left, yes.
Yes, to the left, yes. And if you read the last part of the text, okay, it is like this. As of April 2005, over 400 L dwarfs have been identified. And later on, they write that they are emitting in the deep near infrared. Deep near infrared. This is very important to remember that. Deep near infrared. And the picture you have below.
Why is it important, Richard?
Pardon me?
Why is it important?
It is important. I'm going to show you why. This says, first of all, the color of it is reddish, and we can, I pass across the book of Revelation, the red dragon, the Hopi, the red Kachina, and we have just seen the Colburn text in manuscript 3.3. A light appears redly in the sky. So we are talking here red, red, and red. So if you go to the T class brown dwarf, you can take a look at the picture and the lower part. It is magenta. It is not red. So this is the point I want to mention here. So I'm pretty sure we are dealing with a L-class brown dwarf, and it is very heavy. It is about 30 to 80 times the mass of Jupiter. This is huge. To give you an idea, Jupiter has a mass of about 370 Earth. So one Jupiter, 370 Earth. So imagine 50 Jupiters. See, this is huge. Okay. Now let's go to the page 18. On page 18, still according to the same study, you have a comparison on two type of brown dwarf. You have a T on the upper part of the chart, and you have the Hale, okay? And what is interesting to see is if you take a look at the Hale class, you will see that the chart compares it to a black body. A black body, what it is a surface, and when light comes to it, okay, the surface will not reflect any of the light back. So you cannot see it even if you go with a flashlight and you try to light it. It will not. You will not see it. It is there. So L class of brown dwarf, as you can see, the chart for a black body to 1,900 Kelvin degrees follow pretty much the chart of the Hale dwarf by itself. So it is almost invisible. It is like a pure telluric black body. It is acting like this. That is why we will only see it when it will start to ionize as it gets closer to our sun. Okay? So I'll continue on page 17. What you have here is some information about the aluminum oxide. And as you can see, the emissivity is very low. I'm going to explain you very quick what is emissivity and what it does. When you have an emissivity of 0, okay, that means the thing will not keep the energy of the light that touch the surface. So the surface will act as a mirror. It will reflect back the light through where it comes from, you know, like a mirror. Mm-hmm. When the emissivity is 1, okay, it will act like a black body. It will keep the energy. They will change the light in heat, and they will keep it with it. So you cannot have it's not acting as a mirror. It is the opposite, completely the opposite. So the emissivity value will be from 0 to 1 only. You will never have an emissivity of 2, as an example. If you go on page...
Is this a connection with chemtrails?
Yes.
Okay.
Because this is another point, you know, it's going to be very difficult to see it, even if sometimes we could. Okay, you can, a brown dwarf can have a CME like our sun, and when it happens, you can actually see them. But it lasts like a couple of seconds, or, you know, but I'm going to pass very quick on the United States patent. You have number 5003186.
What slide is that?
Pardon me, it's slide page 16.
Okay, everyone go to page 16 while you're doing that. Final thought on the chemtrails. One of the things that I've come across is a senior pilot for a major airline, one of the big ones, and he's really upset about the chemtrails because he actually sees the evergreen jets doing this when he's flying because they're crossing through controlled airspace. And what really makes him mad is not only are they doing this in controlled airspace, they don't have their transponders turned on to anything someone can find. They're not squawking. And so there they are. They're in a, at around and about the same altitudes that commercial flights are flying and doing this stuff.
It's the mid-air collision.
They're not squawking. Well, I mean, they have ways of working their way around it, and they know where the traffic is. But the commercial controllers, the FAA controllers, are not the ones that are guiding these chemtrail-spraying jets. It's huge. It's huge. And he's seen virtually every type of large aircraft, every heavy that's out there in the fleet that we would see. They've got them up in the air. He says this is just a massive thing. So now the chemtrails, I've known about chemtrails for a long time. And, when I first started Yowza.com, I mean, I was told off the cuff, if you will, by somebody who knows, that was a third-rail topic at the time. Don't touch it. And it just would be more grief than it was worth. And I figured since I was going for Planet X. However, I think you've got a really interesting angle here in the sense that it makes it more difficult to see Planet X.
Yes, and I'm
so
going to...
with that, everybody, you should be on slide 16 of the PDF.
Yes.
That's been the biggest problem that people have had with Planet X. Well, if it exists, why can't we see it if it's that large? So this may explain that.
Yeah, we need to get rock and rolling. Believe it, this show is just going fast, and
I'm going. I will accelerate.
Remaining, so let's rock and roll, Richard.
Yeah. So if you go on the abstract on the line 10, you'll see the oxide of metal is used will have a high emissivity in order to handle the visible and infrared wavelength length. But if you go on page 15 and you look at the chart.
Okay, we're going to 15 now?
Yes, now.
Okay, everybody, page 15. And Susan, thank you for noting that in the virtual room.
I'm sure that a lot of people have heard that chemtrails contains aluminum oxide. Not only that, but this is one of the materials. So what we have on the upper chart is the near-infrared, the one with using the aluminum oxide, okay, to cut this off. But the near-infrared signals. So what it does, as it has a very low emissivity, it will cut, if you look at figure 3, completely the near-infrared signal. So when it comes from space, it will turn back from space to space. So we will never see the signal upon the surface of the Earth. Even if you have a very high-tech infrared telescope, you will not be able to see it if they spray these things above your head. So page now 14.
Okay, and while everyone is going to page 14, just hold on a second, let the audience catch up with us, and I can address a question that came out of the chat room from Robert Teskey. What I am finding interesting, the shuttle program is ending so quickly. Endeavour landed in Florida for the last time last night, and Atlantis, I think, is making its last flight in 5 weeks, and it will be retired. Is there a connection? Well, actually, folks, if you go to Yowza and YOWUSA.com, search for our title, Could a NASA Crisis Herald the Return of Planet X Nibiru? And we actually get right into that. And, I mean, we put that article up back in June of 2010. And this was before they actually extended the flight schedule for the shuttles. There's one more, but you never know if they're going to do another. But for those of you who are interested in this, again, the article on Yowza is, Could a NASA Crisis Herald the Return of Planet X Nibiru? And back to you, and our slide number now, Richard, is going to be?
Number 14. This is just the definition of emissivity, and you have some information about the black body, so people that have not really understood what I have said, they can go through this. So go to page 13 now. Okay, it is a study of a Comet 73P. Okay, and what it talks about a nucleus fragmentation. And if you go on page 12, you can actually see that this comet has split. You got a parent body at the beginning.
Okay, everybody, page 12. And now we're seeing model for fragmentation sequence and hierarchy of Comet 73P Schwarzman-Wachmann.
Yeah, that's correct.
Wachmann. Okay.
Wachmann, I think. Yeah. So at first we got only one body, one chunk, and on September 6th it split. It gives 3 frags. We have the B, A, the C, F, and the E to the right. And on October 25, the BA split to the B and the A, and the CF split again on this date to a C and an AF. Okay, and all these bodies are still sticking together, but they can turn around the parent body, and this can create, an amplification of the electromagnetism environment. This is, I can take the example of the Earth. And you have the moon turning around it, orbiting around it, and this helps us a lot for our magnetic field to be stronger. So, and on page 11.
Okay, everybody, we're going now to page 11. Let's kind of let everyone get just a moment to catch up with us here. And there we go, because they're hearing the show in delay where we're hearing it in real time. All right, so here we go. This looks like a finger painting of a 5-year-old.
Okay. Like
Page 11. You're really going to have to help us with this one. Okay.
Okay, so what you see here is the orbit of all the frags that can move like a vortex. So it's not close to what we see with Comet Elenin, but we know that her orbit fluctuates in time. But this is a proof that we are dealing with several bodies, and it doesn't have to be huge to do this. It can be, as I told last week, all the frag stick together by a electrical force, you know, so they can turn around each other. So that leads me to go on page 10.
Okay, before you do that, while everyone's going to page 10, let me again repeat to everyone that's coming in late to the show. If you look in the show description, there's a link there for a free PDF download. Click that link. You can download the PDF. The passcode to open the PDF is yowza.com, YOWUSA.com. Enter that in, and then just go straight to whichever page we're talking about. So right now we're on 11 and moving to what?
10, page 10.
Okay.
So we have what we have here. They show the parent spin axis, and you have other axis of rotation axis. We have Z1, Z0, Z2. So it shows us that you know, they can spin in different directions and make these things very odd when we study them. So this is the point I want to mention about that. So let's continue on page 9.
Okay, everyone, down to page 9, and this is from September. This is the projection for September 27th, 2011. This is the NASA JPL simulator, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So what we see here is the date the Earth will align with the Elenin and the Sun. And the date is September 27. Okay, let's go on page. Let's move on page 8. This
All right, everyone. We're now moving to page 8. You know, I feel like what was that movie with Sigourney Weaver? She was in Galaxy Quest. Did you ever see Galaxy Quest?
That's
really funny. That was her job in the film, was to repeat everything from the computer. Well, she looks better.
On page.
All right, so here we are on page 8 with the NASA simulation for September 30th, 2011.
Yeah, September 30. What we have, we can actually see Elenin has moved to the right of the Sun if we are an observer from the Earth. And I have calculated the degree, okay? And the degree is about 12 degrees. So the angle, I mean not the degree, but the angle, I have calculated the angle, it is 12 degrees or so, or close to that. So you can check this information by yourself, but this is what I found, okay? Let's move on page 7.
Okay, let's go slowly on the changes because I'm seeing here in the...
I'm going to wait, no problem.
It's a little slow for folks to get up there, and you don't dance and sing, do you?
No.
Oh, well, pity. Anyway, here we are on slide 7.
Know that? Okay.
Shot in the dark. All right, now we have, this is a really intense one. Talk it to us on slide 7 of the PDF.
Yes. Okay, what we see, it is, I use a software called Stellarium, and what I put, you know, what I've done is I put the date, September 30, this year's. You see the time, it is 8 o'clock in the morning. But the location we are now, we are in Jerusalem. Why I choose Jerusalem, I don't know. We will be able to see that things in the sky from several parts, in different parts in the world. So, but I have chosen this place. Okay, now let's move.
This is before we move on, Richard. Before we move on to that, Rick, because he's picked on Jerusalem. You know, maybe this is a Freudian thing. I don't know, but you know, he's gone to Jerusalem. We're looking at this celestial alignment. Any correlations to what you're seeing on your end with Watchers or Torah Code 2012?
Well, Jerusalem's kind of the hotbed of where everything is happening, and a lot of these ancient scriptures are referencing that very same place. So I've always felt like probably the safest place to be would be there. I don't think that Jerusalem will be destroyed in that regard. And even though there's other texts that talk about large chunks of the earth being destroyed, 2/3 of the people. Doesn't refer to Jerusalem being destroyed, even though there's supposed to be a big earthquake there.
Wow.
So
wow.
that's just from things I've read, what I tend to believe after kind of distilling it all down.
Okay. And Richard, what's our next slide? Are you finished with
slide,
7?
Yes, go on page 6. This is
page
the same
6.
slide. Yeah, page 6.
All right.
So,
September 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really the slide where you pull together the actual title of the show.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. That's it, guys. It's Lucky 6.
Lucky 7, I would say.
Yeah. All right, Lucky 6, Lucky 7. Talk at us, man. What are we looking at here? Because now this is where the rubber's meeting the road, from what I see.
Okay. So what you can see at the center of this page is you can see just to the right of the sun the word lion. This is the same word in French. And just to the left, just over the sun, you have Vierge, which means Virgo. So you actually see Virgo, okay, just above, a little bit above the sun, close by the sun, and you see the lion Leo to her right. And when I put an observer directly on the middle of the ground, you can actually see the ground where it is more dark. This is starting just a little bit lower than the middle. Okay, so this is the darker, the shade ground. You can actually see it, and when it is lighter, this is the horizon. So I place the observer exactly in the middle, and I trace 2 lines, one from the observer to the sun, and one to the observer to just above the head of the woman. And what I found is 12 degrees, the same angle we have on the GPL at the same date. You can actually see the date, September 30, on the top right. So and according to the study I've shown just before with the flags, and that a comet comes, with several chunks, if you will, and this prove here that the angle will be at 12, and we will actually see Elenin just above the head of Virgo. I really think this would be the sign, or maybe it could very be the 12 stars upon the head of the woman. We can read in the book of Revelation, chapter 12. So, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So we cannot be sure 100%, but this is I see here mounting evidence for that. And if you continue, if we come back, don't go on the slide. I'm going to read it for you, folks. But after it is written, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Okay, it follows like this, and she is being with child pride, traveling in birth, and pain to be delivered. And after that we have, and there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. I think it speaks by itself. We will see this sign maybe this year, okay? Because if you combine Venus, it's not clear now. Maybe on page 5 we can see it better. So let's move on page 5.
Tell you what, Richard, before we move on, we do have a caller, and he's got some questions. You give us a chance to, we can do it quickly, so we can get through the rest of the slides. So let me bring the caller. Hi, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. I have a question, and I have an opinion. My opinion is July 7th, Saturn and the Sun. Pardon me.
Can we get your name?
Sim Jofra.
Can we get your name? Okay.
Sim Jofra.
Sim
All right.
Jofra.
Call me Sim.
Okay, yeah.
Sim? Okay.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
So
you
on
don't
July
like playing
7th.
Sim City, do you?
On July 7th,
Memory
on July
check.
7th, we'll have Saturn and the Sun and Elenin in alignment. and we'll be able to tell if this is a red dwarf or not. Next thing, in the Bible and in the in the Cobran Bible, both of these consider this to be a test. And one of the things that strikes me is this would be a perfect time for a gestalt to form on this particular planet, a shared consciousness. What's your opinion on that?
Well, actually, that's what I talk about in my new book, Crossing the Cusp. And this is going to be a transformative event. I mean, a lot of people look at what's coming as a cataclysm, and I don't see it that way. I see it as an evolutionary event. And
right.
We either rise to meet the challenge, or we're not going to do too well. As we have in the past, we take 2 steps backwards. But if we can take 2 steps forward this time, we emerge out of this as a peaceful, spacefaring nation. I think really what we get is a Star Trek future, if we can do it right. And if we don't, we're going to be slaves for more generations than we would care to imagine.
I agree. The research shows it, too. They've been discussing this for the last, well, I don't know how early, certainly the last 50 years I've been looking at it.
Well, we're finding evidence that knowledge of this goes back, gosh, with the ancients, thousands of years. Cobran Bible has it. Secret societies for hundreds of years. There always have been a lot of people in the know about what's coming, but it hasn't. It's one of those things. If it's not the right time to talk about it, you're just going to get nailed. So things are turning around, and people are ready to start going. Got another question?
I want to get off the air and let Richard continue. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So, very interesting question. So if we come back to page 5.
Okay. Let everybody kind of remember we're in lag here, and everyone is. What I do is I watch the chat room, and when Susan gets around to putting up 5, I know it's time for us to move on to 5. And so, hello, Susan. There we go. She's got her up. So we go to page 5.
So, okay. May I continue?
Please.
Yeah, okay. So it's not very clear, but it's a close-up. I try to do it. And we can actually see in between September 27 from September 30 that the woman gives birth to Venus. So this is very amazing. And there is another planet very interesting that it is Saturn. So for all the occult and everything like that, I think there is a huge signification for them as well as for other that they have placed their hope in several beliefs. So this is the end of the explanation for that, and I will add.
What's going to be the next slide?
4.
Okay, well, we're moving on to 4. Hey, Rick, what do you got in your research in terms of Saturn and Venus? I mean, Venus was, that's a real consistent thing. It's like the ancients were always on Venus like white on rice. I mean, for them, so goes Venus, so goes the Earth. What did you find?
Well, I always thought it was interesting what Emanuel Velikovsky, his theories about Venus was that it was part of the comet that came through the first time, he says. And what's interesting is later on when they took atmospheric temperature readings, it's still 800 degrees on Venus. So that's pretty darn hot. So it's apparently still hasn't cooled down after that. I mean, there's all kinds of indications that there's been various cataclysms happen in the past in our own solar system.
That's right. That's right. We have a live feed from Venus. First man on Venus. It's hot. And with that, let's move on to slide number 4.
Yes. This is a document made by R.S. Harrington. He was from the U.S. Naval Observatory, and I'm pretty sure he was killed because what I'm going to show you is an excerpt from his study, and you can already read the title. Okay, the location of Planet X. Planet X, if it exists at all, it's most likely to be found at present in the region of Scorpius. So let's move to page 3.
Okay, and while we're moving on to page 3, we have a good question in the virtual room passed on by Susan. How sure are you as far as Elenin being a brown dwarf? Folks, this is Marshall's call, all right? This is looking at everything, my assessment of it. It is not a brown dwarf. This is not Planet X. To me, it is the blue star Kachina that precedes the red star Kachina, and the reason why is it is perturbing. And that's one of the things that is in the blue star Kachina prophecy, is that there's a certain degree of perturbation. It's going to cause some problems for us. But, you know, if you look at the blue star, you look at the red star, blue star is like a left jab. Red star is that uppercut right hook that just crushes bone. All right. So what the Hopi are telling us is when we see that blue star, that's it. You either go back to the old ways and get with the program, or you're going to face a real nasty time. And with that, back to you, Richard.
Okay. So I have worked, like I told you maybe half an hour ago, I told you I have discovered a Planet X orbit that, you know, fits with a lot of symbolism, and I study it out of the Avery crop cycle 2008, and it was validated by several symbolism and astronomical horloge made in cathedrals. Okay, so I'm not going to go far in that because as I cannot show the orbit and everything, but what I can tell you is we have discovered an inclination angle of 33 degrees. This is what we found. And we were stunned to discover that Harrington was looking pretty much to that angle. If you look at the chart to the left on page 3.
Okay, now, folks, as you're going to page 3, there is an excellent article on Yowza.com, The Mysterious Death of
Yes.
Robert Harrington. And actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have the author of that article on. We're going to, oh, man, dead men tell no tales. Oh, boy, it's going to be heavy. But as you're getting into this, when you're talking about 33 degrees, that is 33 degrees inclined to the ecliptic. So let me real fast define the ecliptic for my listeners out there. Imagine you're standing in the very center of the sun, and you've got a hula hoop around you, all right? Like kind of like, you know, we play with the kids, right? You take that hula hoop and you just stretch it out in all directions until it goes out to the 12 constellations of the zodiac, all right? And that is the ecliptic, the plane of the system. And, for example, there was in the chat room, I saw something from one of the folks that said, could the comet explode? You know, it's already so close to the ecliptic and moving back and forth through it. I don't think Elenin is going to explode. The older comets are doing that. They do shatter when they hit it. But Elenin, according to the astronomers, is relatively young, and it's hard to say how it's composed, but if it hasn't done it by now, I wouldn't expect it to. However, that could change. And with that, everyone should be on slide 3. Correct, Richard?
Yes, that's correct.
Good.
So if you look at the chart to the left, the lower chart to the left, you will see the expectation calculated by Harrington. If you go to the right, this is what was his name? It's not written here. The one that has discovered the Pluto. So it was in 1930, and this is what this guy has expected to the right. So let's return to the left and take a look at the probability of where Harrington would search for Planet X. We can see all the dots are, if you look at the chart, it's others best fit the round dots. But the square, we can actually see the prediction of Powell, and the cross represents the very best fit. So you can actually see that we can find more cross and dots on the lower part. And at the right, when you see a kind of delta sign, this means declination or inclination, if you will. This is what Marshall has described. This is the angle to the ecliptic. And the mean value is pretty much close to 33 degrees. And another angle I would like to show you is the alpha. It is, you have the alpha on the scale, horizontal scales. if you go in the worldwide telescope and you use the option sky, and you search for Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus, I can spell it for you.
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus, yeah.
Right. Now, Ophiuchus is the 13th constellation.
That's right.
Ophiuchus is actually the one that Nostradamus tells us that Planet X is going to come out of.
Yeah. It makes me wonder why they have hidden that, part of the sky, but it is, we actually have 13 astronomical signs in astronomy, not 12, but 13. And Ophiuchus, the other name for that is the serpent bearer. I'm sorry, the serpent bearer. So this is kind of interesting. So if you enter the word Ophiuchus in your worldwide telescope, the option you have is sky. You will see the coordinates. It's pretty much close to 17 point, let's say 24 minutes. It's very, very close to, if you come back to the left chart, Harrington chart, the lower part, you'll see the mean value. It's in between 18 and 16. This is where you found the more, cross and dots. And so this is the place he was looking for. And we have discovered the planet X, our orbit, the aphelion, it is in Scorpio. So this is very interesting. So let's move. Yeah, let's move on page 2 now. Yeah.
Okay. Now, everybody, as you're going to page 2 real fast, I can tell you that a few years ago, we actually did a lot of crunching on this very thing because we were curious as to, if he could actually go to New Zealand and see it with an 8-inch telescope. And what we know now is that he actually had the lens for that telescope specifically ground so that he could do this. He did it out of his own pocket. And where he was in New Zealand, if it was the right viewing conditions at the right time, we believe he could have very well observed Planet X at that time. It was a very narrow window. And what we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks is his mysterious death, because he died of cancer very suddenly. And afterwards, the obituary went to great pains to diminish his work, which seemed pretty darn fishy, before the guy could actually write a paper or give a presentation. So with that, everybody, you need to be on slide number 2.
Yes. You can, on slide number 2, you can actually see the value he used for his search, and you can see the inclination value. It is close to 33. It's 32.4. So it's very, very, very close. And as he died, I think some people that came to to speak of him after he was dead, I think they mentioned that he was not very interested by Planet X anymore, and at the end of his life. But it's not true. According to his family, he was still searching for that. And anyway, this is something I have read about this man. And the reason why he has seen it, I'm not sure, because that this star has to travel in a long road to come to us, as it interacts with other stars, and maybe it has been ionized for a certain times. We would be able to see it, but a very, very high magnitude. I mean, very, very few light, very faint. So I don't know, but I really wonder why they have killed this man, as we have found an orbit that match perfectly what he have done, using a different way. And
well, we're going to be talking about that in 2 weeks, but unfortunately, Richard, guys, we're down to 1 minute remaining, so I want to tell everyone again, we are running a special promotion for subscription. What I'm really seeing with Comet Elenin is it's not Planet X. It's not a brown dwarf. That's what I'm seeing it. I'm calling it that way. And you're doing this stuff, you can be right, you can be wrong. It's a threshold issue, as I always say. And, well, that's, pretty much where I feel after watching this, watching all the information. And the thing that really sways me more than anything else when I'm looking in this genre is not so much the science, because, good Lord, folks, I mean, we just get crumbs. We find them on the table, we find them on the floor. Wherever you find them, dust them off and savor them. Because that's about all you're going to get, because we are in a world of controlled media. We're just a handful of elites. are pumping the propaganda to us. And, watching CNN is just disgusting because hard news now is a filler. It's not something in the middle. And then we are going to have a long conversation about some things that, if you look on the episode page for the show, you'll see that there's a download for a PDF, and we're going to be talking about that with Richard St. Laurent. There's 21 slides there he's going to go through, and I'm going to let him walk you through all of that. When you can click on that, there's two versions of it. One is a free PDF, and that's view only. You can sit there and look at it and read along with us. And so while we're getting the show started here, you might guys want to click on that. If you're a subscriber to Yowza.com, well, then you can go ahead and click on the subscriber version, and you can print and extract images from that to do your own research. Now, for those of you who are not already a Yowza.com subscriber and you've been waiting for a deal's deal, we got that too, because tonight we're introducing Watchers 2. We talked about it in the last show, and Richard with Pinlight has got it to market now. And to help it along, because I do star in it, and I think that this is a really, really vital video for folks, we're going to have him talking about that later on in the show. To me, the big advantage of Watchers is that if you have members of your family and your friends, your network, of folks that you love and care about, and they're still sitting on the fence with all this and they don't want to bite into it, wow. The Watchers 2 DVD is just going to blow them away. It's going to open their eyes and rip off the blinders, and you just can sit there with a smug little smile on your face if you want. I mean, it's not my style, but what the heck. If that's what you want to do, plug it in. It's first-rate entertainment. It's excellent. And later on, I'm actually going to ask Richard to talk about the network interest that he has in this for an ongoing series. So with that, I'm going to bring Richard St. Laurent and Richard Shaw Pinlight on. Here we go. Hey, fellas, welcome to Yow Radio again.
Hi, everyone.
There's
Hi there,
Richard.
Marshall. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick. Okay, and just for everyone to know, Rick is going to be Richard Shaw from Pinlight down in Los Angeles, Hollywood, and then Richard St. Laurent will be Richard. And it's either that, or if we get mixed up, I go to Beavis and Butthead. But the guys don't like that. So you're going to have to keep me on the level steady here, fellas. So
we will.
Good. First off, let's talk about this article I just put up with Dr. Mansour Ummersbosch, because this is a paper that has been used extensively by folks who have been advocating the position that Comet Elenin is a brown dwarf coming into the system. And he's written some very provocative responses, and my response to it was really trying to sort through it. I kind of see Ummersbosch kind of like a Shockley character. That's the fellow that got a Nobel Peace Prize in 1956 for the invention of the transistor, and then went out and started with his, with his racial and eugenics rants. That just really killed it for him, and threw him in the dustbin of history. But we still have transistors, and this show wouldn't work without a Shockley transistor. I find the same kind of thing with Ummersbosch's paper, or actually his interview. The paper itself is very much straight science. And he does, from my point of view, he makes a prima facie case. But let me throw this to Richard St. Laurent. What's your take on the Ummersbosch paper?
What I have found very interesting from that interview is the fact you have discussed about a resonator or a resonating system. And
Richard, speak up a little bit more if you can. Give me some more volume there, bud.
Okay. Is it better that way, or?
That's a little better, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so what I found very interesting from that article is the fact the doctor has spoken about oscillate, resonator, and a resonating system. And this is quite interesting because when you have an electrical source of energy somewhere, and when you add to it a coil, what you have is you have a tiny circuit. This is called an electricity resonator circuit too. So, and what it does, as you put it, the circuit on an electric current, when you pass an electric current across it, it will start to resonate at a certain frequency, which is called the natural frequency or the resonance. So this is very interesting because if you have something, an object that approach the Earth, and this object, let's say it is very electrically energized, so but the frequency that things will resonate is very, very important. And if it is in the low frequency, it will affect us higher because the Earth is working pretty close to the Schumann frequency, which is close to 7.8 hertz. This is a very low frequency, so I found these things, and you discussed with him during the interview, very, very interesting.
So, with the Schumann resonance, are you saying his paper stands if there's a Schumann resonance, but what if it doesn't?
But when I read the article, I mean, he has not mentioned about the Schumann frequency, or he has just spoken about resonator, and because he seemed to be very amazed about the fact when these things align with the planets or the Earth, it always has a very tremendous result. You know, we have seen it in Japan on March 11. We have seen it in February 27 in 2010 in Chile. But what about in the past? A lot of comets has come and passed in our solar system without creating, you know, huge tremor like this. I really believe this is caused because the sun is highly active, electrically speaking, and if you couple it with another star that is approaching our solar system, so it makes any object that will pass in our solar system very, very dangerous now. Even a small object can be dangerous depending on where it passes, where it goes, and if it aligns with Earth. In that case, we have an object that is very close to the ecliptic, and so it is aligning with several planets before the next alignment we will have in September. So it can, I suppose it can gain a lot of energy during it travels to us, during you know, it passes to us. So
well, you know, let me ask you this. I think as I look at it all, I mean, I remember years ago I read the Kachina Blue Star prophecy of the Hopi. Mm-hmm. And I've always had a deep respect for the Hopi people. I grew up around the Hopi people in Arizona. And I used to love to go out and hunt and fish a lot. And, you know, you go out and sometimes you'd be passing through the reservation and stop off somewhere for some fry bread. And it's like, oh, man, that's the best stuff you ever put in your whole mouth. I mean, you know, you can just feel your arteries hardening and your guts expanding as you eat that stuff. But, it's addicting. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. And but the Hopi, to me, have always been a real salt of the earth people. And, you know, their heritage goes back 500 years BC. And when I first came across the Blue Star prophecy, and I think it was probably around 2002, 2003, that was when we started publishing articles on Planet X on Yalsa.com. And I remember looking at that and I'm going, I can't connect the dots here, you know. This isn't, you know, where's this blue star? And I mean, oh my gosh, over the years, I saw so many theories about, oh, there it is, that's the blue star. Well, no, it's like that. Oh, there it is, that's a blue star. No. And, you know, it goes on and on and on. But, you know, I just take mysteries like that and I stick them in a jar, put them on the shelf, and eventually universal facts me a label. And I think Comet Elenin really did that for me because when I look at the whole story on Comet Elenin, and what really drove me on this more than anything else is I am a student of disinformation now. Not that I enjoy it, not that I ever got up one morning and said, hey, I really want to do this, you know. No. If it was my choice, I would just do science and look at things and have a good, straightforward conversation, but it doesn't work that way. And so the disinformation really now is an integral part of the research because watching the ebb and flow of it, and as I point out in this article or this interview, is that disinformation has a chatter factor. And it's really a whole lot like, well, what we hear when Big Sis comes on and says, we're going to level Tutti Frutti because of the chatter's ratcheting up. And, you know, to them, what exactly they're saying, they don't know. What they do see is they see a change in the intensity, the frequency, and the nature of the dialogue. And those changes tend to herald an imminent event or something afoot that's in planning. Either way, they will take action on it. Now, with Comet Elenin, that was the same thing I've been seeing in this, and I've been following it pretty close since the comet was discovered December of last year, and really have been sitting back and looking at it. I think I've been, like several of the other researchers I talked to, you know, right from the get-go, we were looking at this whole thing and feeling like it was a big picture puzzle missing the corners, you know. That's a hard puzzle to put together. As things ratcheted up with the disinformation, when you have a normal conversation, and it's something that's purely organic, someone comes out with something and it catches fire and it goes, you tend to see an escalation that goes like stair-stepping. Then it might plateau a little bit, and then as the early adopters solidify, and then if it is a topic that gains critical mass, it takes off. And it builds up like a big bell curve, and then eventually just kind of peters out and drops off. And so it has a very normal pattern that way. With Elenin, what I saw was a synthetic pattern that was not consistent with an organic web dialogue. This was more where it came in and all of a sudden there's these explosive peaks. Bam, 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 bam. And so I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, somebody's driving this conversation and they know how to do that. So this is not organic. And that was really what was bothering me, but I couldn't put a thumb on it. Well, you know, for those of you out there who might remember back to 2003, and there was the big Zeta Talk, Mark Hazelwood, blindsided non-event with Planet X. And I mean, it got everybody racing out there, really worried. I mean, Hazelwood just whipped up a panic. And but when I look at that whole pattern of what happened, it was still an organic pattern. Nobody was jumping in. It was just one of those things that let it run its own course. It was going to do the job for someone else. And sure enough, I mean, it collapsed, and there was no interest in Planet X for several months. And it dragged along until 2004, in December of that year, when Sumatra superquake and tsunami took 150,000 lives. And that was really the turning point for a resuming interest in this topic. So as I'm looking at this, it's just taking me back to 2003 all the time. And I'm just going back and I'm seeing manipulation, but I'm seeing generation of a non-event. To me, it makes sense from the disinformationalists who, what their job to do is really to exhaust people's attention in a legitimate topic. That's their job, get you to move off target, so to speak. Yeah. And so they run you down rabbit holes, or worse yet, they throw you stuff that on one hand is really good, and on the other hand, it's flawed and deeply so. So you can never get a clear beat on anything, and that in turn will exhaust you as well. I see these techniques. It's much more sophisticated than the things I've been seeing in the past, so that took more time to observe, but you can definitely see the handprint that's coming on it. That's what I'm seeing here, is that people are getting set up with this notion that Comet Elenin is Planet X.